Good morning, sisters and brothers here at St. Paul's. Today is the fifth Sunday of Lent, which means that next Sunday is Palm Sunday and Holy Week, which ends with the three great services of the Christian year, which we call the Holy Triduum. This is Maundy Thursday, when we remember Jesus' institution of the Last Supper and how he is betrayed and arrested. Good Friday, when we commemorate his suffering and passion and death. And then Holy Saturday, a day of eerie calm between his death and resurrection, ending with what we call the Great Vigil, the mother of all liturgies, the greatest single liturgy of the entire church year, including the first Eucharist of Easter, which happens on Saturday evening. Journeying up to this point, we have been reflecting through our baptismal covenant. We have looked at what we believe in week 1, the Apostles' Creed, our commitment to the sacraments and prayer, the moral struggle we have in everyday life, and how we repent when we fall into sin, and then our commitment to proclaim in word and deed the good news of God in Jesus Christ. And finally, in this last week before Holy Week, we have two promises, the last two promises of the baptismal covenant. One is to seek and serve Christ in all people, and the other is to strive for justice and peace and to respect the dignity of every human being. Now, these are fairly similar in their outward intention, but how we relate and how we live in the world. One seems more personal or individual, seeking and serving Christ in the people we meet in everyday life, while the other one seems more structural or systemic, looking for justice and peace to respect the dignity of every human being. What I've always been fascinated by is the mutual nature of these promises, that in the church in particular, as we seek and serve Christ and others, we're going to be dependent on people seeking and serving the Christ in us. It's a relational thing. It's about how we are as a community, seeking and serving Christ in one another. And then also, as we sacrifice something of our lives to make a more just and peaceful world that respects the dignity of all people, we will need others to make those sacrifices for us as well. It's a mutual knitting together of a human community in love and care, finding Christ in each other. But there's something more about this that I find really fascinating. I don't think it's possible to find Christ in oneself. As St. Paul says in Colossians, Christ in you, the hope of glory. I don't think it's possible to have a sense of Christ in us, the hope of our glory, abiding in our bodily frames, unless we are seeking and serving Christ in one another. And similarly, I don't know how we come to any sense of respecting our own dignity as the children of God unless we are making steps forward, advancing in respecting the dignity of every human being. When we disrespect others, we automatically lose respect for ourselves and lose our own dignity as the children of God. When we don't seek and serve Christ in others, how could we possibly have a sense of Christ in us, our hope of glory? Now, granted, these two promises seem entirely overwhelming because they seem to involve everybody that we encounter through our day. Like, how do you go from not really being concerned about this to suddenly trying to seek and serve Christ in all people, everywhere? Or how do you go and start seeking for justice and peace and respecting the dignity of all people, always and everywhere? How do these promises become real in our lives. I have found that it's best to start with the people in our lives closest to our homes, the people we actually engage with the most in our lives. Now, we can and we should, with time, and we will expand the circle of our concern to include everyone, to how we relate to people in the grocery store, to how we relate to the person driving too slow, or the panhandler at the exit. Yes, we will eventually get to all of those people. But if you want to get a strong sense in yourself of what it means to really commit to seeking and serving Christ in others, start with your family. Start with your close friends. Start with church members. And you might start with people who are somewhat difficult for you, or with whom you have a difficult situation, or just people you know who are in a difficult situation. In other words, the people who would normally make up what we would call your prayer list, your daily intercession list, right? All these people. And you can make a list of who these people are in your life. And once you have that, you start with prayer. Before we begin acting, we start with prayer. So the way that I would practice this is I would find a quiet time, 10, 20 minutes, where I will not be interrupted. I will find myself in a comfortable chair, and once I am there, I will remember I'm in the presence of God. I'll remind myself of my core desire to surrender to God's action and presence in my life, and my baptismal covenant to seek and serve Christ in others and look for justice and peace. And then I will gently hold these persons up inside my sense of God. So there's this person and there is Christ. And I'm just holding them up in a very general, sort of almost unfocused way into the presence of God, and looking at them for the life of Christ that faith tells me is already in them. And I guess what I'm praying for here is for Christ in all of his creative authority and power to make real loving contact with them in their lives, even as he is already in them. So we might do this for 5 or 10 minutes or 20 minutes. And then you might want to write down what came to mind as you did so. One can do this as well with situations of injustice or conflict in our world or in our lives, maybe in the local community, maybe globally. You can also come to the Eucharist on Sunday carrying your prayer list with you, very much having these people or these situations in your mind as you come to offer yourself to God and receive God's life back in Holy Communion. And sometimes, if you have a spiritual friend, you both can do this and then share what arose for you as you prayed about people and situations in your lives, difficult situations, blessed situations. But just share with another human being what arose for you as you prayed about it and asked for Christ to be present in all his creative power and authority. And from that, I guarantee you, a real action will follow, a change in your in how you relate to these people or situations, and maybe specific action to witness to the Christ who is there and to God's hope for us. God bless you all on this 5th week of Lent. We are getting close to the end. I look forward to celebrating Palm Sunday with you next Sunday, and then Holy Week with Maundy, Thursday, Good Friday, right? And the great vigil of Easter on Saturday. God bless you all. Take care.